Hello, thanks for joining us. On behalf of the Putnam County Playhouse, I'm Jack Randall Earls, the man in the chair, and today we're getting to know board member Mark Hammer. Hi Mark, thanks for joining us.
Sure, thank you for having me, Jack.
Yes, you've been a board member for many years. You do a lot for the board, and I want to talk to a little bit about that. When did you join the board for the first time?
I believe it was 1986, but I'm not certain for sure. But I think it was around the mid '80s sometime.
Mm-hmm. And I remember you and Jeanette and Jim and
Marcy.
Jim and Marcy were very active on stage.
Mm-hmm. Especially Marcy.
Especially Marcy, and you not so much. But I do remember in 1990 when we had a thank you dinner for the donors. That we did. I think it was at the Union Building.
The
Union Building.
Mm-hmm.
I know we all dressed up in tuxedos, and you were on stage. I think you had a line.
I probably did.
Now, you serve as the treasurer for the corporation, the Putnam County Playhouse Incorporated.
Right.
And so that means that you're also a member of the executive board. What are some of the duties that you do in those two jobs?
Well, the treasurer, fortunately, we have a bookkeeper that really helps me out, Brenda McLean.
Yes.
And she's been doing this for a number of years because it got to be such a big job with my CPA, ownership of a business and everything else. It was too much, and so she took over doing the daily deposits, daily check paying, and everything else. So mine's more of a supportive role for her. I file the corporate tax return at the end of the fiscal year. I report the treasurer's report that she makes up. So it's a lot of financial things, but she's doing a lot of the daily stuff, and I really do appreciate that. As far as on the executive board, it's there's I think 6 members of the executive board, and we meet occasionally to make some decisions and everything else. But it also involves the annual budgets and setting those. So, but the board as a whole makes most of the decisions. But sometimes the executive committee has to make some decisions and. That then go to the full board as to ratify or to just know what the decisions have been made.
So it's very important that we have someone in your position, in both of those positions, who knows some history of the Playhouse, knows how things have been done before and how things probably should keep being done.
Right. Yes.
What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen happen here at Putnam County Playhouse?
Well, obviously I think the biggest change was removing these posts, air conditioning the theater, just the expansions to the buildings to the south of here too. But as far as what the audience sees, the comfort, bringing in better seating, but we've upgraded light boards, sound boards, the whole sound system and lighting system over the years. But obviously I think the biggest changes have been the removal of the posts and expanding the season from, I think it was initially two productions each weekend for 2 weekends, and now we're up to 7 or 8 or 9 sometimes productions. So, so I think that those were some of the biggest changes.
Well, you mentioned the posts. Now there are some people who are newer to the Putnam County Playhouse who might not know what you're talking about. Describe the post problem that we used to have.
There were several chairs that were sat behind the posts that you'd have to look this way or that way. So, yes. And then the air conditioning we used to have, and you can still see the vents that we had cut, some windows that would open up to try to ventilate as best we could. But it was really sticky, and we had those plastic seated chairs, and people would sit in those and their legs would stick to them. And unfortunately, there were nights that it was like a day like today. It's kind of hot and humid and everything else. I mean, if it was really hot and humid, we'd lose half of our audience. Mm-hmm. We'd have a sellout, but we'd only have half the seats filled, or maybe 2/3 at best. But the posts were, you can still see there's fill-in places where the posts used to sit, and now on the platforms, the risers going up, there's another board there.
Yes.
So,
well, I remember particularly those non-air conditioned summers because it seemed like we always did shows where we always had to wear winter coats and hats and mufflers and gloves
or
and sing and
wool
dance.
costumes or
a
what?
wool costume, yes.
Wool
So,
underwear.
Yes, this is much better.
Yes.
Much more comfortable, we'll say. Now, every year you announce the Upstage Award nominees
Oh, yeah.
at the annual meeting. And that's always a big, there's always a lot of excitement among the nominees, or even the non-nominees,
Or even the non-nominees.
or even the non-nominees. Could you tell us a little bit about the Upstage Award and how that works?
Well, I wasn't around when it first started, but I don't think I was even around when the first Hammy Awards came out that were just a boiled ham bone super glued or somehow glued to a board. I mean, it was pretty. Did you have one of those?
Well, my first one is
I'm the one asking
a
questions.
ham bone, but it is affixed to a nice trophy stand.
Okay.
Gold, but it's kind of green now. But yes, the first one was indeed a ham bone glued to a 2x4. So we have gone past that.
We have gone past that.
Yes.
And we really called them the Hammy Awards,
Yes.
and we still do, but they're technically the Upstage Award. And it's to be given to somebody that is usually not in a major role in a production, that does something to draw attention to themselves, and usually in a funny manner, or acts up, really hams up their role to the point where they, and each director nominates somebody from their show. Occasionally somebody nominates two people, and that we really discourage that. And sometimes it's hard not to nominate, to find one person in particular. So we give that at the end of the season, and it goes usually to somebody in a supporting role normally. And I sit out there, and I a lot of times I think there's going to be the Hammy nomination during a production, because I don't get to choose. The directors choose, and sometimes I'm surprised. It's like, well, I expected somebody from a certain show to be.
You're surprised.
Yeah. So I'm expecting somebody to be nominated, and they aren't. But yeah, and I know that sometimes it's
Now,
what do you call it? A Passover when you
Yes,
don't get a
the
nomination.
Hammy Award presentation, or as it's known at my house, Passover. Matt won last year. I'm sorry, the name is escaping me. Matt his wife is Robin. Oh my goodness. Anyway, he won last summer for She Loves Me.
Okay.
Very
yes.
funny.
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
funny.
I'm sorry that we neither one can recall.
Matt, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Me too.
Send me an email. Now, Mark, since you have confined yourself primarily to parking cars and sitting in the audience, show-wise, what are some of the favorite shows that you've seen produced at Putnam County Playhouse through the years?
Wow. Because I go back to when we were on the outdoor stage. We first got season tickets out there.
Which would be 1981.
81, okay. Yes. And then we moved in here, and we had front row center, and then moved over to the other side when Evelyn Robbins could no longer attend, and we needed her 4 seats because our kids wanted to attend. So we've had basically the same seats every year. I really remember Vicki Parker directed Fiddler on the Roof one year, and it was in September, I believe, and it was really blazing hot. Yes. But that was a really good and well done production. Joseph, the original Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat with the kids,
yes.
with the young adults.
1993.
Okay, 1993 was a standout,
yes.
and
yes.
so those are the ones that I can recall. Right offhand, but every year I just enjoy the season, and it's it's a lot of laughs and some tears, and
yes.
it's always it's just super that we've got this for almost 60 years now, this facility here, and
yes.
Thanks to Hazel Day Longden
yes.
and her family, and I can remember the years when it was done, in rented facilities at the high school and at DePaul and stuff. So
yes. Now, if someone is thinking about becoming involved in the Putnam County Playhouse, would you encourage them to do it?
Well, of course, yeah, and I have before. So I know there's one guy that went to our church. He no longer does, but you know, I heard him singing behind me, and I asked him if he'd ever come out here, and I don't think he had, and he went ahead and came out, and it was in several productions. He no longer is. I think his age is preventing him from doing so.
Well,
So
we know about that. Yes, or I do anyway. Well, Mark, in closing, let me ask you, when you get to theater heaven, what do you hope the director says to you?
well done. Job well done.
Who could ask for anything more?
Right, exactly.
Yes.
So, but I do also want to thank, you know, our patrons. You know, I mean, like you have always said, without them, without our contributors, without our audience, without that support, we would just be a barn in the middle of a cornfield.
That's right.
And that rings so true.
Yes.
And I didn't mean to steal your thunder, but I can't say it any better than you say it every time you're on stage here, when introducing
Yes.
a production and thanking the members or the audience and everything else. So I do want to thank everyone that has contributed over the years, both on stage, backstage, financially, supported the arts, supported the theater in particular. And thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. And thank you for joining us. On behalf of the Putnam County Playhouse, this is Jack Randall Earls, the man in the chair, and we hope that we'll see you all again very soon.